Hello, and welcome to Branding Bits. My name is James Soames, and I'm a consultant in Taiwan. For the past 2 years, I've been sitting in this lonely room, pondering the fate of the Taiwan brand and sharing thoughts on how together we can attempt to improve it. If at the end of this video you want to see more of our episodes, remember to go to our Subkarma channel and subscribe for regular engaging content. By subscribing, please also consider that you're keeping me off the streets and confining me to my basement. Therefore, you are doing society a favor. But we shall not dwell on my pitiful situation, so let's jump straight into today's topic. In this episode, I would like to look at what is perceived to be unique to Taiwan, especially in the eyes of foreigners who may not know this country so well. I'm sure that, like me, you can think of plenty of things that point to Taiwan's uniqueness. But do foreigners have the same perceptions, and are they justified? And do these perceptions actually do more harm than good to our country brand? Or is it just better to be known globally for something, good or bad, rather than to be remembered for nothing? Did any of you watch Last Week Tonight with John Oliver on HBO last October? Taiwan was the subject of a long segment by famous British TV host John Oliver, and the video was viewed by more than 5.5 million people globally. I've posted the link to the show in the description if you haven't seen it already. Now, needless to say that the local Taiwanese media and the general population of Taiwan were in raptures over the coverage. After all, as a brand, Taiwan is still in its infancy and struggling to expand and clarify its image worldwide. And featuring on a popular American show on primetime TV for no less than 22 minutes was indeed a valuable opportunity to let a global audience know more about Taiwan and what makes it special. However, remember how we live in a world where messages need to be kept short and easy to digest. Our attention span has dwindled down to mere seconds over the last few years, with the explosion of information and a growing number of communication tools and platforms. In fact, I mentioned in a previous video that Gen Zs have an average attention span of 9 seconds, and for millennials it's 12 seconds. Do you remember? Check it out if you haven't seen that episode already. So, needless to say, the opening 10 seconds of the show on HBO were going to be absolutely crucial in introducing Taiwan and how special it is, right? Have a listen to what John Oliver had to say in his opening sentence.
Our main story tonight concerns Taiwan, and it's honestly remarkable that we haven't talked about Taiwan before on this show, given it's the birthplace of bubble tea, which is delicious even though...
Oh no, not the bubble milk tea again. John Oliver has barely started talking about Taiwan's geopolitical importance in and to the world that we are now already picturing bouncy tapioca balls in cold milk tea. And it seems that this is a recurring topic for pretty much everyone who is anyone in Taiwan, from KOLs to government celebrities. Now, don't get me wrong, bubble milk tea is a national treasure here. And there must be good reason for so many successful and smart people to glorify this product. One obvious one is that it is a massive source of income in the international market. In fact, according to statistics, the total global sales of the precious bubble milk tea reached $2 billion in 2020. And it's estimated to reach $4.3 billion in 2027. But is this close association between Taiwan and bubble milk tea in the minds of foreigners good for our brand? Now, before we can answer this question, let's deconstruct bubble milk tea. Time for a science class as we analyze what constitutes this famous drink.
Science with James.
Now, I would like to deconstruct bubble milk tea into 3 main categories. First, the attributes of bubble tea. Second, the experience of drinking bubble tea. Third, the symbolic meaning of bubble tea. So first, let's take a look at the unique attributes of bubble milk tea. From an image point of view, a typical Taiwan tea consists of a beige-looking Assam tea with dark brown bubbles. Now, although the bubbles can also be translucent, here the darker color is due to the brown sugar they contain. Now, bubbles can be found in many different sizes, from 3.5 millimeters to 9.5 millimeters. The Taiwanese milk tea bubble, however, typically measures around 6 millimeters in diameter. In fact, in 1985, Hanlin had to commission especially large custom-made straws to allow for smooth passage of the balls from cup to mouth. Now, when it comes to serving size, a typical large Taiwanese bubble milk tea contains on average between 150 and 200 bubbles. Now, this is the equivalent of 2 large spoonfuls. Now, with an average estimated serving of 175 tapioca balls per drink, and assuming that the price of a large milk tea globally is 100 NT, this would mean that the world consumed 105 billion bubbles last year, and are expected to wolf down a projected 225 billion in 2027. That's an awful lot of bubbles. In fact, if we laid every bubble down in a straight line, the line would stretch a whopping 630,000 kilometers. That's enough to go around the Earth 14 times. Even more crazy is that the line of bubbles would almost be long enough to go to the moon and back. But we're veering off topic here. Although each tapioca ball is hard to begin with, it is boiled in hot water to give it its famous chewiness and bounciness. Heat brings out the bubble's most famous QQ attribute. And it's also said that a single bubble can withstand tremendous pressure without losing its shape. These are sturdy, versatile, and bloody-minded little things. Now, another attribute is the cost. Bubble milk tea is affordable since milk tea is typically cheaper than its more exclusive and older siblings, green tea and black tea. The cost, however, may not be to your wallets, but more likely to your waistline. Yes, the dreaded calorie count. A typical large-sized bubble milk tea contains 650 calories. This is 3 times more than a standard green tea with 210 calories, and more than twice the amount found in regular Coca-Cola, which is 300 calories. Now then, we've just listed the main key attributes of bubble milk tea. Let's have a brief look now at the experience of drinking bubble milk tea from Taiwan. In my opinion, the whole experience can be summarized in 2 key words: anticipation and playfulness. Note how large the custom-made straws are. It's very hard to have total control on the flow of tea and especially bubbles when your mouth is open so wide. There is therefore a sense of anticipation tinged with a smidgen of exhilarating fear when taking that first slurp. And I cannot call it an elegant sip. I'm sorry. In effect, each suck on the straw is a leap into the unknown, a gamble between a mouthful of tapioca balls or, if the balls get stuck at the far end of the straw, a giant gulp of milk tea. Either way, one is never in control of the experience, hence the anticipation, exhilaration, and apprehension combined in one. Added to that, drinking a cup of bubble milk tea from Taiwan is truly a playful experience. There is something wonderfully childlike and fun about eating something that is meant to be drunk. Have any of you ever had a gulp of milk with your mouth full of Oreos, for example? No? Or maybe that's because you're not stuck in a dark basement like me with nothing else to eat than Oreos with no friends and nothing better to do. But surely you've enjoyed the famous Thai dessert, mo mo za za, or the traditional Taiwanese tang yuan, right? Being able to chew your tea or your soup or your juice is a joyful sensory experience. Finally, the symbolic meaning of bubble milk tea. During the course of this video, I've used the term bubble milk tea, but it's also known as boba tea, pearl tea, tapioca tea, QQ tea, and I'm sure there are many others. The names are inconsistent and show how a unique product has been hijacked by many different parties, players, and regions. In fact, this inconsistency highlights the versatility and diversity of this industry, especially now that bubble tea is taking on new flavors, new colors, and even new markets. In many ways, adding bubbles in a traditional and some would say boring tea is about taking a chance and making a bold statement. It's saying, why not? It's also saying, what if? And it's saying, let's do this. Bubble milk tea is like the middle child. It's not as standard and traditional as the eldest, who has to conform to expectations. And it's not as crazy and unruly as the youngest, on whom there are no more rules. No, bubble milk tea is the one in the middle. The one who retains some of the original attributes of the eldest child while finding ways to stand out without quite going as far as the youngest. It's the child who provides the platform for change without setting nor pushing the boundaries too far. Bubble milk tea symbolically is about change, transition. It's about daring and challenging, almost to the point of irreverence. So, when John Oliver chooses to mention bubble milk tea as the key product that represents Taiwan, is he right? And is it a good thing for our brand reputation overseas? I would argue both yes and no. Let's have a look at the key attributes of bubble milk tea that we've just listed. Now, let's see what that means when we replace the product with Taiwan itself. Now, you can probably see where we're going with this, but let's do it anyway. First, collective strength, small pieces, big results. Well, doesn't that sound just like Taiwan? A tiny island, barely noticeable on an atlas, yet a place where the energy of thousands of small enterprises, just like bubbles, are working alongside one another, competing, innovating, and hustling. For a population of just 23 million people, Taiwan is consistently proving that small means flexibility, dynamism, and adaptability. Second, takes shape in hot water. Taiwan's geopolitical situation means that it is constantly facing adversity, from international exclusion to lack of recognition and trade barriers. Yet, this country has proven over and over again that it is when the heat reaches boiling point that Taiwan reaches its full potential. An obvious example would be Taiwan's response to the crisis over the last 2 years. Pharmaceuticals, masks, online services, and many other sectors have pulled together in these times of adversity and shown that we are serious players in the global community. Just like the tapioca balls, Taiwan can be squeezed hard, but it will bounce back invariably. Third, good value but packs a calorific punch. Most people have no idea how many calories are packed into a few tapioca balls, into a seemingly innocuous and tasty looking milk tea. And just like the tea, Taiwan packs a serious punch. Just look at the global power that the island has when it comes to semiconductors and chips. And we're not just talking technology here. Taiwan punches way above its weight in food variety, quality, and creativity. See, are you getting the picture now? Allow me to bore you just a little bit more. Look at how the experience of drinking bubble tea can be applied to Taiwan in general. Taiwan is a place that consistently tops the lists for expats around the world. Not only is Taiwan ranked as one of the safest countries in the world, it's also one of the most democratic in Asia, with one of the highest levels of freedom of press throughout the whole Asia-Pacific region. Taiwanese people are friendly, and Taiwan even ranked highest of all Asian nations in the World Happiness Report in 2020. So it's hard not to compare Taiwan's personality to that of the joyful and bouncy bubbles we have been talking about. Finally, let's have a look again at the key symbolic attributes of bubble milk tea. Do they apply to Taiwan? Versatility? Check. Taiwan is a culturally diverse place. Taiwan is also geographically diverse with gorgeous mountain ranges, flat and green rice fields, rugged seashores and sandy beaches. Individuality? I would argue that this is a work in progress. Taiwan has always seen its individuality curbed as a main OEM and ODM supplier to foreign markets. But things are changing, however, and many homegrown brands are emerging with big aspirations. Taiwanese people are also becoming more vocal and free to express their different views in an increasingly tolerant society with a growing sense of national identity. Finally, transformation, daring and challenge. Does this describe Taiwan to you? It's hard to argue that Taiwan is not the perfect example of a nation which has been able to reconcile its past with the future. A country which is always in transformation, which has always been a work in progress. Taiwan's global recognition and prominent role in such culturally diverse sectors as puppetry versus artificial intelligence and robotics are a testament to the country's courage to transform and embrace new trends while cherishing old traditions. So, how do you feel after this argument? I must admit that I'm a little proud of this comparison. You may disagree with me, in which case I'd invite you to let me know in the comments section below what your thoughts are, because I'd really love to know. Now for the flip side. I am aware that it is a real privilege to be able to be the rightful creator or owner of something that is enjoyed, loved and recognized globally. And there is no doubting that the bubble milk tea will be forever associated with Taiwan, and it is a great conversation piece, as proven by John Oliver in his segment. Now, I was fortunate enough to have been involved in the creation and launch of Cavalan, the first ever whiskey from Taiwan. Again, the quirkiness of being a whiskey from Taiwan, and a good one at that, was a great way to slip the Taiwan name in most conversations. However, just as with Taiwanese whiskey, bubble milk tea remains a sensational story. It's interesting because the story belongs to the tabloids, not the serious publications. It's a back page story at best, not cover page news. For those of you who are still familiar with newspapers, you know, the paper things. No. Although the world drinks its fair share of bubble milk tea, it is still not a staple and indispensable product. It will never replace green tea or coffee, wine or water. It does not specifically fulfill an existential or long-term need, but it's a fun drink to drink on occasion. It is more of a gimmick, a tasty and fun one, but a gimmick nevertheless. And that is where we should avoid to position the Taiwan brand. So where do we stand on all this? Well, bubble tea certainly says a lot about who we are as a nation. It is different, unusual, unique, joyful. However, we should not be content with being defined by this product only. Taiwan's been mixing bubbles with so many industries, in so many areas, for such a long time now. From food to art, from traditional machinery to the metaverse, from politics to crisis responses, Taiwan is constantly asking the questions, what if? And why not? In everything we do. So let's continue to challenge the status quo. Just as the tea maker in Chun Sui Tang, who accidentally dropped tapioca balls into a glass of milk tea and created the most wonderful beverage, let's continue to find new places to drop our lively bubbles into. 7.5 billion bubbles is just the start. Thank you for watching, and God bless.